In a bustling school, there was a teenage boy named Ben. He was only 13 years old and had a characteristic that set him apart. Ben was hearing impaired. Though he possessed a great spirit and high ideals, the world around him wasn't always kind. Every day, as Ben went to school, his heart raced with anticipation, worried about what might await him. Upon arriving at the school corridor, the muffled sound of laughter and demeaning whispers often reached his ears through the hearing aid his mother had given him. When students noticed it, they would frequently laugh and point, believing they'd stumbled upon a source of amusement. A classmate once ridiculed, "Look at Ben. He's so lost because he can't hear what we're saying." They delivered these cruel remarks intentionally, fully aware that Ben could hear everything they said, thanks to his hearing aid. Another student sneered, "That's right. The poor guy probably needs help even crossing the road." Despite these challenges, Ben remained steadfast. He did his best to ignore the hurtful comments and proceeded to his classroom, choosing to rise above the malice of his peers. Inside the classroom, the other kids were throwing paper at Ben. They all laughed at him. The boys felt superior to Ben, thinking they had an advantage over him. Then the teacher entered the classroom. "Okay, kids, today we're going to review yesterday's math assignment. Who wants to answer the first question?" The teacher's question caused the entire class to fall silent, their faces showing clear annoyance. As is often the case, many children dislike math lessons. Out of the blue, a student remarked, "Ben, want to give it a shot? Or should you just write your answer in the air?" The class erupted in laughter. Ben, however, ignored them. The room only quieted down when the teacher intervened. Seizing the moment, Ben stood up. He approached the front of the class, clutching his math textbook from the day before. He then requested stationery from the teacher, who didn't seem surprised by his actions. Being his homeroom teacher, she was quite familiar with Ben's demeanor. She knew that, despite the constant teasing from his peers, Ben was genuinely intelligent. This became evident when, within moments, Ben clearly and simply wrote out the formula for the first lesson. "Now, children, take a cue from Ben," the teacher exclaimed. "He never acts arrogant or mistreats others. Yet he never hesitates to showcase his abilities. You all could learn a great deal from Ben instead of opposing him." The teacher's voice resonated throughout the room. Ben returned to his seat without a hint of a smile, even after the teacher's praise and defense. Though teachers often lauded him, it rarely made a dent in his classmates' attitudes. Day after day, Ben endured derisive comments and gestures that left him feeling alienated. However, a handful of classmates stood by him, albeit viewing him with misplaced pity. Yet through all these tribulations, Ben's indomitable spirit remained, continuously inspiring others. Post-school hours, it was a recurring event for Ben to find his bicycle sabotaged, forcing him to trek home. Upon arriving, Ben would never divulge to his father the bullying he endured. One day, Edward, a constant tormentor and perhaps the harshest of them all, found himself on foot post-school. Serendipitously, his path home led him past Ben's residence. It was then he witnessed an interaction between Ben and his father, shortly after Ben had returned from school. "Ben, what happened this time? Why aren't you on your bike?" inquired Ben's father, bending down to meet his son's eyes. Using hand gestures, Ben communicated that he had swerved to avoid a cat on the road, causing his bicycle to tumble into a ditch. His father offered a reassuring smile in response. "All right, I see. Secure your bike now. Then let's pick up where we left off with yesterday's session," his father suggested, removing his gardening gloves. Upon hearing this, Ben eagerly stowed his bike on the house's porch. He then swiftly made his way inside to deposit his backpack and switch outfits. When he reemerged, Edward's eyes widened in surprise to see Ben adorned in a pristine martial arts uniform. Frozen in astonishment, Edward's shock only intensified as he watched Ben expertly execute martial arts maneuvers. His amazement peaked when Ben shattered a stack of bricks, assisted by his father. Chills ran down Edward's spine as he imagined being on the receiving end of Ben's potent strikes, especially given the numerous times he had provoked him. Amidst this trepidation, however, Edward couldn't help but marvel. An internal query nagged at him. With such prowess, why had Ben never retaliated against Edward's incessant provocations? "Ha! Who's that?" Ben's father, having noticed Edward's presence, approached him with a congenial smile. "You're one of Ben's classmates, aren't you? Why linger outside? Please, come in. We have some delightful treats," he offered. The mere mention of snacks awakened Edward's hunger, especially under the sweltering sun which had left him parched. Yielding to the invitation, Edward found himself sharing the breezy porch with Ben. They sat in contemplative silence until Edward mustered the courage to speak. Why don't you retaliate when we taunt you? With your skill, you could have struck back," Edward posited cautiously. Instead of vocalizing a response, Ben reached for a notebook resting on a nearby table. He began to scribble down his thoughts and then showed Edward his written words. "My father ingrained in me that true strength isn't found in our fists, but in our capacity to pardon others' transgressions," Ben wrote. Edward, reading the message, felt a profound realization wash over him. In contrast to Ben's wisdom, he felt diminished. Ben added another note. "To forgive signifies authentic might. Letting go of animosity and hurt requires resilience and robust moral fiber. In forgiving, we liberate ourselves from detrimental emotional chains, fostering inner tranquility. It's a testament to our ability to master our emotions and spirit, transcending mere physical prowess or fleeting anger." Edward hung his head in introspection. Recognizing his own faults, he felt deeply embarrassed. While he may be physically more complete, Edward recognized that he lagged in terms of emotional maturity. "Ben, I'm truly sorry. I've crossed the line," Edward confessed, his voice quaking with genuine remorse. "Look, I'm ready for you to hit me in return for how I've treated you. All I ask is that you forgive me and let go of my past wrongs," Edward pled earnestly. Rather than responding with anger, Ben gently set a chilled bottle of juice in Edward's lap. Meeting Edward's gaze, Ben signaled with a heartwarming smile, encouraging Edward to savor the drink without a hint of guilt. Edward was taken aback by Ben's graciousness. He hadn't anticipated such magnanimity from someone he'd wronged. From that moment, Edward silently vowed to always treat Ben with respect. He recognized that while Ben might have certain limitations, he was also a young man endowed with numerous strengths. It dawned on Edward that forsaking a friendship with someone as remarkable as Ben would be the real loss. So, he resolved not to further diminish himself by overlooking the value and potential in Ben. From that day forward, an inseparable bond formed between the pair. Edward evolved into a guardian figure who genuinely valued Ben's presence. Conversely, Ben, in his subtle ways, began aiding Edward in areas like untangling intricate math problems. Their budding friendship underscored a timeless lesson. The potency of forgiveness can eclipse even the fiercest physical force. To forgive is not merely to usher in new possibilities, but also to unlock doors to enduring friendships and countless positive outcomes. As Edward warmed up to Ben, their peers also gradually overcame their hesitancy, growing closer to Ben. The classroom environment started to shift. Ben's frequent smiles became a common sight, and many of his classmates embarked on learning sign language to better communicate with him. While it may sound trivial, this inclusive gesture significantly enhanced Ben's sense of belonging and happiness within the classroom. Armed with a newfound circle of friends, Ben's enthusiasm for school soared. This transformation was a testament to Ben's immense capacity for forgiveness, which not only healed old wounds but also paved the way for deeper connections with those around him.